welcome to the Power Platform Show. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/250. Before we chat with today's guest, here's a quick message from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by ISV Connected. Are you thinking about creating some IP? Not sure where to start? You should join the only community dedicated to ISV success, isvconnected.com. Why? Because navigating the Microsoft ISV landscape is easier with friends. Sign up today at isvconnected.com. Today's guest is from Columbia, South Carolina, USA. She's a Dynamics Angels guru at CPIT. She spearheads the Power Apps user group in Columbia, South Carolina. She is a chief maximizer at World Max. And you can find her on Twitter at a very unusual handle. It's at MM090511. Now, I don't expect you to remember that, so we'll put it in the show notes. Mary Thompson, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. Now, did I get that all right? Was there any corrections that you need to make?
No, I think that basically sums it up.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, Mary, how long have I known you now? As in, is it 2 years, around about?
So I've been following you for about 2 years, ever since I got into tech, but officially I believe that we met about 9 months ago when I started in January in the 90-day mentoring challenge.
Yeah, nice. And it seems that you have one of those careers that's been just on a whirlwind of progression in the last year.
Man, it absolutely blows my mind. I'm just so humbled and excited and can't wait to see what the next, year and so on brings.
Awesome. So before we get started, tell us a bit about, family, food, fun, those things that you do when you're not working.
All right. So family, I have an amazing 11-year-old little boy who I'm absolutely obsessed with. And I got married about a year and a half ago. So I have a super awesome husband who's very patient with all my community activities and career. Yeah, they keep me pretty busy. So we spend a lot of time together. We live right by the lake here in Columbia, so in the summer we spend a lot of time on the lake, and in the spring we like to do a lot of fishing. And yeah, so I do that a lot. I'm an avid runner and love to run, love to go to the gym. Ironically, that's why I started listening to your podcast. Is in the morning I listen to that as I do my cardio. So I guess that's a little bit about me. Super exciting, I know.
Does it not put you to sleep? Do you not, if I was doing cardio, I want something that, would rev me up, but don't you get a bit bored?
Well, that's exactly what my husband said. He's like, this is what pumps you up. And, but it's kind of ironic because like I said, I typically go to the gym before I get started for the day. So it's the first thing that I do. And what does motivate me, honestly, is like listening to everyone else's amazing stories and their careers. And it's so inspiring for me. Actually, it just kind of jazzes me up for the day. So it actually does, kind of just, it sets the tone for the day for me.
That's so cool. The journey that you've been on seems to have been a rapid one. Tell me, how have you ended up today in technology, in Microsoft Business Applications? What's that journey been for you?
Man, it has been something. I really kind of stumbled into the tech world about 2 years ago. It was August of 2018. And I really looked into it. I was working on getting my master's in ERP management, and the company that I was working for at the time, they were using AX actually. So I had been an end user in AX for several years, and past fellow employee started, they were working in technology as well, and we're working for a Microsoft Gold partner, and they said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for something different. You already know the system. Why don't you come work for us?" And I had no idea. Literally, I had no idea what consulting was, but I knew that I had to take the chance and take the opportunity. So I was scared to death. I had no idea what I was doing. I started Googling questions because, what else do you do, right? And I stumbled into the, community, Dynamics community, answer forum. And I think everything really just catapulted from there. I asked questions. Ludwig Reinhardt, I will
Yep, yep,
always
yep.
say, saved my career because he would answer, a bunch of questions. And then from there, I stumbled across D365 Saturday and app in a day. And I took a risk and I asked my boss at the time if I could go to New York for this D365 Saturday and app in a day training. And to my surprise, they said yes. And that's where I found, I learned about the Power Platform and all the lights went off for me there. I was like, holy mackerel, I have killed myself up until this point in my career. And I didn't have to, you know what I mean? Like, there's this amazing solution and platform. And I just went all in, and I kept, kept doing the consulting for FinOps. But from there, I just really connected with a lot of people, that was at the event. And I don't know, I guess you could say the rest is history. I really just, met everyone else in the community and, ask a lot of questions and just I don't know. I don't even know how I got here really, but it's really just gone from that.
So this is what I find interesting. Like, it's one thing to do something local in your local area. You can get involved in community and user group. You talked about, the forums and getting involved there. But it's interesting because, when I think of you, you seem to already have kind of like an international persona. So your community, and I always feel that people choose their community and grow their community. You've seemed to grow in your community much more larger than just your area. Kind of what steps did you take, to do that?
Yeah, so I think that it was a couple different, things. Here in South Carolina, one of the reasons why I started a Power Platform user group here is there's like no technology presence here. So I didn't have a choice to essentially go local, right? It was super difficult to find anyone local, that was involved with that. So I really had to reach out. And then I don't know, I guess I have no shame. And so I'll just reach out to people. One of the really good things, honestly, I learned from your mentoring challenge was, to not be afraid and to go ahead and, message people on LinkedIn, comment on people's things on Twitter, and, be genuine in your requests and your asks. And so I'll message somebody on LinkedIn and say, hey, I was listening to this podcast, or I watched this event, or I read this blog and, I thought it was super interesting, or I have this, question. I'd love to be a part of your network and just, learn from you. And that people are super receptive to that. And, that's what I did on LinkedIn. And as far as Twitter goes, I just had fun with people. People are out there, they're having fun and they're being real. And I would just do the same thing and be, just kind of be genuine. And I say that I love the community because I've waited my whole life to really feel like I felt a part of some place. And then in the, D365 community on Twitter, I finally feel that. So I was just me, and people seem to be perceptive to people that are new. And yeah, so, I think that's kind of how this international perspective has been is I really had to reach out to other areas to get some help and to get involved because there was nothing around me.
Yeah, isn't it funny that, when people connect with you on LinkedIn, sometimes it's a feeling that they're going to try and sell me something. But in your case, you were always, asking for help or, to learn more, that type of thing. And it's quite a different take than, I get LinkedIn requests and say, hey, we've got a whole bunch of people in common, so I thought we should connect. Like, really? Like, is that the reason? Yet, it seems that you specifically went out with a kind of an attitude of wanting to learn, and the community embraced that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, man, even it's crazy the approach it or like I said, the feedback that I've gotten from that. I remember I heard a podcast And it was the first time I ever heard of Donna Sakar. And, I was just so absolutely blown away by her, take on things, right? Because, I mean, she's amazing. And I reached out to her and I was like, dude, I think that you're my spirit animal. Like, I'm so, like, awed by you. Like, I just, maybe one day I'll be lucky enough and get to meet you in some, random event or whatnot. And I was shocked because she responded back and I mean it was like genuine truth and I'm like whoa like really and yeah and I've had that experience with a lot of people with her with Mary Rodriguez just saying hey I'm so blown away by like the person that you are like and it just really blows my mind to find so many real people like you would think maybe that like people of that caliber wouldn't respond or wouldn't connect or just I mean they're really busy but I don't know I think that if you go into it pretty genuine like you said and not selling something it's amazing.
Yeah. What podcast did you hear her on, Donna?
Yours. Like I said, I've watched so many. I feel like a fangirl. I've listened and watched and learned about so many different people from your podcast. So yeah, so I heard about her on yours.
That's awesome. And see, the crazy thing is this was before Donna was even in the Power Apps community, the Power Platform community.
Yep.
This
Yep,
was
exactly.
I had her on the show. It probably took me about 9 months to a year to get her to come on the show. And interestingly enough, she had been recommended to me by somebody in LinkedIn. As in not in LinkedIn, the actual platform LinkedIn, like, but I'm talking about an employee of LinkedIn recommended that I get in touch with her. So isn't it crazy that, a couple of months later she joins our community and wow, she's like fully involved in it now.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I actually had the opportunity to meet her last year in London. I got this awesome opportunity to go there for work, and then I think I saw something on LinkedIn, and she was still part of the Windows Insider program,
That's
what I mean,
right.
at that point. But I was like, well, I'm not a Windows Insider, but I mean, she's in London, I'm in London, like, I'm going. And so I told her, I told somebody else, I was like, they're like, have you ever met Donna? I was like, no, she may put a restraining order on me, but that's okay. And, I told her kind of a little bit about my Power Platform, experience. I had actually just done a hackathon with Emma Darcy and her team, and we tied for regional winners in the US. And I was just telling her about that, and it was probably about maybe a month later at most, I guess I would say, that she announced that she was going to, be part of the Power Platform community. And I was like, oh gosh, this is even more exciting. So
Yeah. That is so
crazy.
cool. So what's been your significant learnings and experience from engaging in the community?
Oh, learnings. Don't be afraid. And I think it's like I suffer a lot actually from imposter syndrome, which sometimes people say that they find that strange to hear about me. And I'm like, man, I don't know who you've been following, but I definitely do. But what I really love about it is that you don't have to know it all, right? And you can say, I'm terrified and you will have so many people support you. And it's not like a victim card, but it's just more like just genuineness. So I would say just reach out and just be real, just be you. You don't have to be anyone else and just really be you. I would think is a big lesson that I have learned. And I think that's really kind of what makes your name, right? Like I can't be somebody else. They already exist, right? That's boring, but I can be me and you can be you. And that's what I try to tell people. That's one big lesson that I've learned. And I think one big takeaway, I guess if you would call it a takeaway, is that give back to other people. Like just give back. I think that that's maybe one other reason that I've had quote unquote success, right, in the community per se is I'm just so grateful for everyone that's helped me along the way that it's super important to me to give back and help others. And not that I'm anyone, but just, I don't know, I just think that a little bit goes a long way. And I think that a lot of the really strong community members believe that same concept as well.
So what communities are you kind of involved in nowadays that are more in a leadership type role, that you're either creating these communities or growing these communities? I know Toastmasters is on your radar, but what are those community circles, some will overlap, that kind of you're involved in and you proactively engage in?
Yeah. So kind of myth debunker. I am the spearhead of a Power Apps, community group here in Colombia.
Why myth debunker?
I've tried 3 or 4 different times to have like an official first meeting, and it keeps falling apart one way or another. So that's why I say myth debunker. Yes, yes, I am, technically on the community website listed as that, but I can't say that like we have this huge booming, group inside a traditional user group forum, I guess I would say. But one thing, it's not even really, I guess, so much business app related, but I've gotten really involved with a women's transitional shelter here in Colombia. Yeah, because I figured who better needs career upskilling, right? Than some women that are just really hard on their luck. And so that's really where a lot of my effort has been in the last maybe 3 to 4 months is really, really working with them and trying to help these ladies upskill. We're working on creating a tech center, like working honestly on just getting them like honestly like Wi-Fi upstairs. I've gotten some donations and Jim Novak's been really awesome and he's donated some stuff as well to them and just trying to get some computers because then what we're going to do is use the Microsoft and LinkedIn learning sites where they're talking about the career. So we're going to use that as a curriculum and just working on getting these ladies going. We had a girls camp this summer, just kind of getting them, excited about careers and technology and, just self-empowerment. So I've done a lot of work there. And I think the other community I've been probably really big involved in is just kind of like a mentorship and humans of IT. Yeah, I got selected as that to be an ambassador. So I think that kind of goes with a lot of my just helping, So those are two of the ones that I've been involved in. And then I do a lot in the Power Addicts. I probably talk a lot or write posts and just really interact with people and try to encourage people to kind of get into that speaking unit. So I don't know. I guess those are kind of the groups.
So you're part of the 2021 Humans of IT, which is a Microsoft program, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, you're alongside some big names, as well in our region, like in the UK. I can see Keith Watling there and Dux Raymond, who's been around for forever in this community, and I see
Yes. Yeah.
Summit in there. Is so. Tell me, what do you do with this program, Humans of IT? What does it mean? What do you do as part of that ambassador community?
Yeah, we kind of all do our own thing per se in some regards, but all with the greater concept of like using technology for good. So, Dux is really into, using and empowering people in the nonprofit sector with technology. Summit, of course, is a inspiration and, power apps and, helping other people. Keith, of course, uses his awesome story. And so we just do these different kind of activities. Foyen, of course, she's got a great story as well. But really, we just try to empower and encourage people and talk about the concepts of really using tech for good. And that can mean so many different things, right? Whether it's like building an app to help a nonprofit or, just trying to help make a difference or sometimes you're creating apps to help a community, right, which is different than a nonprofit. And I don't know, my take on it or like my role in it or my goal is to just really empower people to just grab onto this technology wherever you are at in your life or your career. And that's my take on using tech for good. But just there's this quote that says like be a light in the dark, and that's what I think Humans of IT is about.
I love it. I love it. Tell me about World Max.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. It all goes in together. So World Max stands for World Maximization. And my personal mission is to empower as many people as possible to reach their maximum potential using the Power Platform. Like I said before, I went to this D365 Saturday, learned about the Power Platform, and I was just so excited and I saw so many opportunities So I have a heart around like single moms or single parents because I was one, right? And like that struggle was so darn difficult trying to work full time and go to school full time and raise a kid all by myself. And I saw that this was an opportunity, that could really even help a lot of my friends, you know what I mean, that sat in that same position. And so I felt like it needed a name so that I could spread something, right? It's a lot of words to say, you know what I mean, other things, but if I can just say like world max, my goal is just to kind of get that trending or just to spread that thought process. And I had some t-shirts made. So
Yeah, I haven't seen mine yet. I check the letterbox every day to see when my bright pink World Max t-shirt is arriving, and I'm looking forward to it.
okay, well then you're going to have to send me your address because they're out there. But the rule is if
What's
you
the
have
P2? What's the P2 around
Okay,
World
so
Max?
yeah, so it's a couple things. So power platform, right? So whenever you take a number and you put it to like an exponential, it means that it grows at like this exponential rate. So right, if you're in this world max and power platform, then you can, increase your maximum potential at an exponential rate.
I love it. I love it. I love what you have up there on Twitter, the picture, the how you've brought it all together, and the t-shirts look amazing. Good
Yeah,
work. Good work. Good
thanks.
work.
Thanks.
So, Textable Tribe.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so what that is about is it's just like, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, but on the bad days, like you need people that are going to set your life straight, right? Like if you're like trying to just like, there's so many times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an epic failure. And so I'll text Emma and she's like, no, you're not. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like this group of people that just encourages you and keeps you straight on those days that you're off kilter. And I have to give credit to Donna. I'm pretty sure that that's her, coin phrase is Textable Tribe, but it's so true, right? I mean, whether you want to call it a Textable Tribe or your friends or whatever it is, it's just a group of people like to surround yourself around that believe in you as much as you believe in you, so they can remind you when you don't.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And obviously very positive in the way that engagement works.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I know that, with COVID-19 coming along, you ran into some challenges where you're employed and what. How are things panned out over the course of this year? And what was that journey you went on, and how did the community, I mean, I know I keep saying community, we keep coming back to that. How did that work out for you?
Yeah. So, there's always a silver lining in everything. So, whenever the pandemic hit, I ended up losing my job. And, where I'm recording, if I'll just be, perfectly honest with the whole world right now, I wouldn't say in the end that it was necessarily like, oh, my company, had a downturn. I mean, they let some people go and some people they put on furlough, and it was a really great opportunity for me to realize that maybe I just wasn't the strongest finance and operations, consultant. That really my passion was really around Business Central because I love SMBs
Wow. Yeah.
and finance, was, I don't know, I really struggled, so I say that it stinks to lose your job. It was a very humbling realization to realize and make, in that. And maybe I just wasn't that good at that particular part, but that's okay, right? Everything's a learning season. And it was kind of funny the weekend before. So I lost my job on a Tuesday, and on that Friday, I spoke at a session that Victor Dantes put on about like empowering your career. And it was kind of like, you make your own journey and you make the best out of the worst situations. And then a few days later, I lost my job. And so I was like, okay, I guess I got to listen to my own advice. And so as the UK term goes, is I put on my wellies and I got to work per se, and I learned. So I just tried to learn a lot and just keep getting involved and trying to learn different approaches. I tried to start blogging a lot because I felt like my job was to kind of put my name out there and to try to land another job while learning. And so I applied to speak at every event I could find. And the first month I was really optimistic. The next 2 months started to get a little bit more depressing. It was a hard struggle, and I actually almost quit technology. I was like, maybe I'll just go back to accounting. Maybe I'll just back to operations. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be here. And then with my Power Platform user group, one of the meetings that we tried to get up and going, I ran into some new people. Chuck Ingram over at Congruent X, he was like, Mary, you've got a really great story. You've got a lot of passion. Have you ever heard of Cooper Perry? I said, no, I've never heard of Cooper Perry. He was like, you got to meet Bobby Priestley over there. He's a stand-up guy, and I just think that culturally, like, you'd be a really good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Bobby, and then about a week later, I talked to 3 other people in the same day, and they had a job offer over to me. Yeah, and so it was all Business Central, So basically, I guess long story short is I got into a system that was really where my passion was. When I started in technology, I did finance and Business Central, and I loved Business Central so much more than I did for finance anyways. So it taught me that you can make changes, and it's important to be true to what you're good at and what you're passionate about, and that nothing bad will last forever. You just got to kind of weather the storm out, I guess.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So how long you been at Cooper Perry now?
About 2.5 months.
Wow. And what are your thoughts 2.5 months in? Are you enjoying it? And how come you didn't go to Congruent X? Was he not set up enough at that point for you?
He does CRM.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. So
Yes.
That's not your ballpark. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't my ballpark. I know everyone says that they, love their different places, but truly, I am so incredibly blessed and grateful to be there. They are so supportive. Vicky Critchley, she's amazing. She's our president, and she's all about like women in technology. And I also work with Rob Pope, and he's, he used to work at Microsoft, and he's super supportive too. I mean, it's like I'll still freak out sometimes before a client meeting, and I'll reach out to somebody and they're like, no, you're amazing. You're great. You're supposed to be here and you're going to kill it. And I love it, right? So it's like my Textable Tribe, evolved to like all of my fellow employees. And they're so supportive in everything that I do. Like, I think in other jobs, they weren't necessarily thrilled about my community efforts. So they weren't, they're like, well, that's a lot of time you got going in there. What about you only billed 65 hours this week. Can you get back to work and stop trying to help other people? But they're just so community based. So I really, really, really love working for them. And I tell them all the time, I really feel like I'm home. So I'm super happy there.
That is so cool. I just flicked to the website because I never heard of the organization until this call just now. And they're one of the coolest websites I've seen in the biz app space. I see so many people that have practices in business applications. And when I go to the website, I think that their target audience is Microsoft. And look, Microsoft, we're using your brand. Look, Microsoft, we're using your logos. Look, Microsoft, we do your product. And I'm like,
no.
Yeah, that's not what the customers are looking for. And, straight away, when I hit this site, I'm seeing modern business applications, digital culture, and it's got powered by these other technologies, which of course lends brand credibility, but it's quite clear around what you're doing to start with, which, that is amazing. It's so good. Good to see. And I love the colors.
I do too.
Very cool. Very cool. So this is great because, I have talked with you through this process over the various months and seen, when you were in the in-between space. And I'm so pleased that this is the other side of that in-between space. And even though it took 3 or so months, you've got into your right space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, like I said, that's the silver lining in all of this is it started off bad. And now, I mean, I couldn't imagine being happier. And I'm just so excited and happy and thankful. So
great. It's great. So what are your plans now for, moving into 2021, and we can put this interesting, different type of year behind us? What do you see, your future looking like?
Man, so Cooper Perry just started in the US back in January. So one goal is, just to really, really help drive our US, business. So that's definitely one big goal I have from a, career standpoint. And then here we go, back to community. One of the big things that I want to do is I just want to continue helping people and mentoring people. I've been, helping some people along the way and mentoring them. And, now they're speaking at a bunch of different events. And so I really just want to continue like that community effort and helping people get started. I want to continue to help Hannah's House get our tech center, officially up and running and getting that full blown and gaining world domination with World Max, I guess, or not domination, but I just want to help. That is like my number one goal of 2021 is just to give back and help as many people as possible.
Yeah, so good. What steps, what actually positive actions can people take if they also find themselves? Because, I mean, the interesting thing about your story is I've had other people tell me a very similar story where they are still in the waiting place. They are still, due to COVID, there's been downsizing, changes, whatever, but they are still out of work. They're still not in that position. There might be some that are in careers that are going nowhere. What advice and what practical steps should they take?
I think one is as difficult as it may be some days, just continue to have a really positive attitude because honestly, like no one likes a negative Nancy, right? I mean, it's okay to have bad days, but just try to have a positive attitude, I think is a big thing. I see sometimes some people like on LinkedIn, like they'll just be like, oh, and they like seem super angry. And I'm like, I don't know that that's a good look. So that's one thing that I would say. But I would also say to if they're not blogging, or if they're not like creating content, like absolutely like be creating content on what you're passionate about and be putting that out there and like get into the speaking circuit or just drive yourself in the community and be vulnerable and put yourself out there in that like between your content and what you're looking for and be a helper. Honestly, that's what I did so much whenever I wasn't working was I was like, oh, I got all the time to help people. And I really think that it made a big difference in that time frame, right? Like, because you're gonna be doing something positive, you're gonna be growing yourself, you're gonna be learning. And I really truly believe that the right, what I mean, job and person, I think that gets a lot more notice than like just sitting back and twiddling your thumbs or being angry and I don't know if you're out there and you don't have a job and you're having a bad day, like find me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn. Like I'm here to, you know what I mean? Like support you, figure it out, whatever that like stump is, but just try to keep your head up and keep going.
I love it. I love it. You talked about, get on the speaking circuit. What if I don't know how to public speak? I don't have a clue how to public speak. Where do I start?
Yeah, well, then you need to go to Toastmasters and get yourself, just speaking and trying. I think, well, public speaking right now is a lot easier in some aspects, I think, than it ever has been, especially if you've never like started, because guess what? You don't have to look at, the 2,000 people that may be listening or the 100 people or however many it is. It's just you and your computer screen. So that's one thing. But I would just, like I said, I would definitely recommend getting into Toastmasters. Of course, you recommended that to us in our 90-day challenge. And it took me, I don't know, it took me maybe like a month and a half to even try to go to my first thing. And now I've been there for like 7 months. I'm, our secretary. I'm trying to get enough people to start just like a virtual Toastmasters group where we kind of step away from the traditional like format, but more or less practice on like tech and online
I
presenting
love
because
it. I love it. Mm.
especially with COVID and how, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that the business world or the technology world will ever be the same, right? Like, we're never going back to the way that things were. Like, we hope that some things will be the same, right? Like, but at the same time, it's really opened up the eyes for a lot of new possibilities. And so I think being able to have that online tech presenting set is really important. So I don't know. That's,
Yeah, I
things,
love it.
things like
I love
that.
it. I love it. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, well, we're running out of time, and I always like to wrap up with some quick fire
Oh,
questions,
no,
which I'm
I
sure
know.
you're familiar with, right?
I know. I'm worried.
Before we jump down that path, is there any guests you'd recommend to come on the show in future that have got a good story that you think we should tell it? And yeah, who do you think?
Trisha Sinclair.
Trisha, yeah, my good friend Trisha.
I don't think she's been on
No,
here, has
she's
she?
not been on the show, but man, she introduced me to some very fine rum when I met her parents, and yeah, she's very cool, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, she's so awesome. She started a whole power platform school for kids and then did a whole like hackathon recently. So she's amazing. So I would totally recommend her.
Love it. I love it. And good call. Good call. I should definitely have heard her on the show before now. I miss her not being in the UK anymore and seeing her around London. So true. So true. Okay. Are you ready for your questions?
As ready as I can be.
Okay, here you go. Number 1. Which famous person have you met?
Which famous person have I met? I sound so corny. I'm going to say Donna.
Nice.
I'm such a nerd.
There you go, Donna. You're world famous. Would you rather have a rewind or a pause button on life?
Oh, pause.
Okay. If you could change one thing about the way you were raised, what would you change?
Ooh, wow. I don't know. Maybe some more stability. I would have appreciated more stability, but at the same time, it made me who I was. So I don't know. I would almost say nothing at the same time.
What's the best date you've ever been on? Not with who, but what made it the best date?
So, my husband, so one of our first dates, we just went for a boat ride and, he had a little picnic and we watched the sunset and it was just, I don't know, wasn't some fancy restaurant or anything like that. It was just the two of us and it was really nice.
I love it. What were the 3 biggest turning points in your life?
Moving to South Carolina, having my son, and getting into the technology industry.
Nice. And final question, what book has made the biggest impact in your life?
This is an unpopular tech answer, but the truth of it is the Bible. That's what I'd have to say.
I was not surprised that's what your answer was. As in the minute I was reading it out, that was the first thing that I thought popped into my mind.
Yeah,
Mary,
that's me.
It's been so good to have you on the show and so good to, follow your career in a way. And, it's been so exciting to see you really come into your own and own, where you're going. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for all your help in my career. I owe a lot to you too. So thanks so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Applications MVP, Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If there's a guest you'd like to see on the show, please message me on LinkedIn and let me know. Please like and subscribe in your favorite podcast player. If you want to leave a review, go to nz365guy.com/review for my current reviews and options to leave your own. See you next time.